Hey, good evening, everyone. James Manus, Mount Juliet Vice Mayor and District 2 City Commissioner. I just wanted to welcome you here to our town hall meeting tonight. It's Thursday, August 20th, and you know what? We're ready to get things started off here. So I appreciate you taking the time to join us. I know there's a lot going on this time of year, and I know some of you are probably going to join and watch by recording later on, and that's all right too. But the format for this thing is typically we'll get on here. We got a few discussion items that we'll go through, and after that, what we'll do is we'll turn it over. We got the comment, and we will do our best to answer those. And I don't know if it looked like my audio was falling off there for just a second, so if it did, I apologize. But with that said, I want to, at this point, I want to take a little opportunity to introduce the co-host who's helping me out tonight, Mr. Preston George. I'm going to bring him up here and let him introduce himself.
Hey, James, thanks for having me. I'm Preston George. I'm currently a senior at MTSU, majoring in political science with a concentration in pre-law. I've had the opportunity to kind of get engaged in local government over the past couple of years. I actually ran for county commission in 2018 and was actually one of the youngest people to ever run for county commission in Wilson County. And through that experience, it taught me a lot about the inner workings of local government and just how greatly it can affect you. And one of the things that I told people I was on the campaign trail, and I've told people since then, is that local government officials can make the greatest impact on you the quickest rather than federal officials. But I've had some experience in a couple campaigns, whether that be at the local, even at the state house and Senate level, and at the actual statewide level. So glad to be here.
Well, Preston, I appreciate you taking the time to join us tonight here, and appreciate you being involved and volunteering your time to do it. I mean, it says a lot about you and who you are, but you know, like I said, we're going to get at this point get into the topics here tonight. And if you have a question, feel free, just drop them in the comments. We'll be going through those in a little bit. Do our best to answer everything here live for you. Can't always promise to have all the answers for you here tonight. Sometimes it may be I don't know, and that's okay too, because we'll get you the right answer. If it's in our ability to find it out, we will do it. But the first thing I wanted to talk about was just a quick update on the fire department. You know, the North Station is moving along, and that's the station. It's going to be basically right across from the front of the new Green Hill High School. So the new station, the plans are underway. We're starting to see it move ahead. We'll probably get out there at some point and do a groundbreaking, because hey, let's face it, it's election year and politicians are going to do a groundbreaking when they can for a fire station. So it's been a long time in the work. Seriously, it has been a long time in the work, and it's been coming, and it's a major asset, a major improvement for what we see as a city and what we need doing on this. So I'm excited to see this come into fruition. Now, one of the other things, an update from the budget. I know for the last town hall I had to take a little segment in there and explain why I voted against the budget. And the reason is because the new assistant fire chief position was captured in the budget in a way that it could only be an internal hire. The fire chief pointed out the fact that he didn't have anybody in staff that he really felt was qualified for the position. And that's not to take anything away from those guys. It's just a young department, and we had nobody apply internally, but unfortunately it was captured in law that it had to be an internal hire, so we kind of was stuck there, and I was like, another setback for the fire department. But Commissioner Mullally and myself sponsored an ordinance to remove that requirement, and it's been removed, so now we're in a position where that can move ahead, and I think the fire chief's going to have some good announcement on that. I think they've narrowed down a candidate, and I would look forward to seeing that soon. But that said, after the 2019 budget, of course, we got our work cut out, and the new guy's going to have a lot of work cut out with the fire chief there to get done. When we look after where we were in June of 2019 in terms of staffing, paid staff, we had 24 people on staff. With the new position in there, we'll bring it back up to 23 after the cuts. So we'll get close to back to where we were from 24 to 23. The real problem that we've seen is in June 2019, we had 23 volunteers that were active in the department. And at this point, or June numbers at least, we had 12 volunteers active in the department. So that's a loss of almost 47% of that force on it. If you were putting that in terms of bodies or people being hired, my estimate is around $600,000 a year to recapture that labor. So it really shouldn't surprise anyone that we lose a lot of our volunteers when we cut the volunteer coordinator out of the budget. I don't think anybody should be surprised that we lost those bodies on it. But one of the things that we're going to have to see is those bodies recovered, because they are so important to us as a city. And that's one of the things that's allowed us to operate with the staff that we've had, that cost-effective fire department model that we've used, the combination department, which is having the paid staff on hand to respond, to the day in and day out. But when we need more forces that are available, to be able to call those volunteers up without having to keep that force on payroll 24/7. So it's a good model. I still believe in that model, but we have to support the model to get it. And I think one of the things that we've recently done by clearing the hurdles on that position is going to bring us a lot closer to getting us back to the staffing level that we were at 2019. I mean, the worst thing that could happen is, losing the staff, and of course all the things that we've been through in 2019. So 2020. I think everybody's trying to forget 2020, but seeing that staffing model that we're at now. So no surprise, that's really good news, and I think it's going to move us closer to where we need to the city. The other thing I wanted to mention was just the financial recovery. We had a lot of concern going through the budget this year about where we would be in this, for lack of a better term, COVID-19 economy. And it was a really conservative budget, I guess is really the way to say it. And there were some discussions about cutting some of the transportation projects, and I was adamantly opposed to doing anything that's going to slow us down in terms of getting where we need to be for us, transportation improvements, traffic improvements, anything on that. I felt we needed to really focus on that. And some of you may have heard me say back on June 22nd that now's not the time to be cutting our budget in terms of transportation, but to double down on Mount Juliet, to double down on our future, trust in our city where we're going, and just have confidence in where we are as a city and where we're going. And some of the numbers that have come in have been really, really impressive, and it's surprising. So I'm going to give you some revenue numbers coming in here, but I'll caution. We like to say we're cautiously optimistic about these numbers that we're seeing. Sometimes we kind of fear maybe there's a clerical mistake or not, or perhaps on some of these. But anyway, I'll start with state shared revenue. When we got the budget, and this here is the key when you start hearing about information about the census out there, why it's so important to fill out your census, because this state shared revenue is distributed to the cities, the counties, and all along is by population numbers. So our certified population is 31,376. So going into 2019, we were getting what we call state shared revenue at the rate of $139.47. So if you're out there and you believe you don't have any worth, the state put a number on you at $139.47 a year. So always know you're worth something to somebody, at least to the state. So that budget out there, that brought in our state shared revenue for every person we had out there, brought it in. Now, in 2020, with the COVID struck, they come back and said, we're going to have to adjust those numbers down. They initially said 126.47, but the final number is 135. And if you don't enjoy doing math on a video, it's roughly about $4 difference is what it came. Even though initially it was forecasted at being $13 difference. The $13 doesn't sound like a lot, but when you multiply it by the population, it comes out to about $400,000 difference in the budget. And that's a big chunk when we're expecting sales tax revenue to be down as well. So in reality, when the adjusted numbers were used, the difference has really only come out to be $280,000. And I think most people really think of $280,000 in state revenue, a loss compared to everything else that's going on in 2020, is a really good situation for us. So that's good news on that front. The other thing is sales tax. Our sales tax numbers. When the tornado first hit, and I'm reporting numbers based on the month it was collected in. So for April sales, we were down $60,000. For 2020, less. So we collected $60,000 in 2020 than we did in 2019. And that caused some concerns, especially going into the budget cycle, finding out that state shared revenue was going to be down as well. So that really set off some alarms, 60,000 down. But going into this, and keep in mind too, these numbers are collected in April. Some point in May, we get the report on what's being collected. So we're at May at this point. We find out we're going to be $60,000 down. We're getting real heavy into the budget, which is due July 1st. So it's basically done in May and June. So we're seeing that coming in. We're getting the numbers from state shared revenue that's down too. So you're really at a position now when you're making the budget is like, what do you think is going to happen in the future? Do you think we're going to be way down economically? And I mean, I even heard things flowing around like bragging about the fact that we're not doing any layoffs this year, and that's good, and we shouldn't have been, but you just don't know what they're doing. So we move ahead. The May numbers, the May numbers come in. We don't get these numbers to June until we're working on the budget, and it may have already been passed at this point. But in May, something really amazing happened in Mount Juliet. Our numbers over the last year were up $435,000 over what was collected last year. And to put that in perspective, we were probably collecting about $900,000 total. So to jump from $900,000 to probably $1.3 million or so collected in sales tax that month, that's a huge deal for the city of Mount Juliet. And that says a lot about the people out there in our city, and you just really believing in and supporting the city. So that's huge. That is amazing, really. And I mean, we got the June sales numbers in. And like I said, we're cautiously optimistic in these numbers because I keep saying that because they've been errors in the past, but all indications is this is real. This is the numbers that we're collecting. In 2019, we collected $971,000 that month in sales tax. 2020, it's almost $1.3 million, or a $325,000 roughly increase in it. So you're seeing almost a 30% increase in 2020 over 2019, and that's probably some of the best news I've heard in 2020 when it comes to numbers and budgeting on that thing. And it's really, I can't thank you enough. It's not the politicians necessarily aren't driving this numbers. We do our best with the budgeting, but it's you, the people that live in Mount Juliet, that's shopping, keeping stuff local out here, that's supporting our businesses. And I see these numbers coming in, but I also saw the effects of it when it's going on. I saw our local restaurants, how they were hurting. I saw people that were losing their jobs. They didn't know what was happening next. And I realize there's still a lot of people in that situation. But I think our economy, at least here locally, is doing pretty good in terms of collections. And we got a lot better situation in a lot of cities that are surrounding us. So again, thank you, because you're the ones that drive that. You're the ones that make that happen. And I ain't got nothing but good things to say. And if you're a struggling business and you're in Mount Juliet and you're hanging on and you looking for some relief, I think the numbers are starting to trend and show that the economy here is picking up, at least locally. And that's a really good sign for our city and where we need to be with services, infrastructure improvements, all those things tied together. Our police department, because we're going to see a loss in court revenue. And no, the police department is not there to just write tickets to collect revenue. If that was the case, they would need to collect a whole lot more than they do on an average year, because on average they do about 10% of their total budget comes from court revenue. So those guys would really have to pick it up to make a dent in the budget as far as what they collect in there. So, it's going to be down. So it's good that the sales tax is there to make up for some of that difference. And again, thank you all for shopping in Mount Juliet, supporting it, doing your school shopping here. It makes a difference. Eating out here on Mount Juliet, and I know a lot of us probably are working from home. So when you need to eat out or do something, go do it. Support these local businesses. It's so important that we keep them. It's a cornerstone of our local economy. The other thing I wanted to cover was we were forecasted to be down with state shared revenue. The state thought they were going to be able, at least the budgeted numbers that we were given were going to be way down compared to where we were the year before. So one of the things they did was offer a grant to the cities, and they were based on population. And the city of Mount Juliet was able to secure an $818,000 grant. And that's a lot of money compared. That's maybe around 5-6% of our budget there that we got, I'm sorry, it's a bigger chunk than that, but that's a big chunk of our budget on this thing. And from that, we were able to successfully apply for 4 different things. And one of those was to get what they call a mini pumper, or a smaller fire truck. And that's to go back into the station behind City Hall. And that fire truck's going to service neighborhoods like Woodridge and Jackson Hills and Kelsey Glen and all those things around the center of the city, Clearview Estates. All those areas around there are going to be serviced by that fire truck. At one time there was some talks about just moving the staffing up to the North Station and closing that station, but it leaves holes, and we need to be moving forward, not just trying to spread what we have around. So that apparatus is going to go back there. The fire engine that we have in that station is going to go to the new North Station, and the new North Station will provide a home for the ladder truck that a lot of you see around the police station. That ladder truck used to be housed in what we called Station 2, which is there at Green Hill Church. And unfortunately, that building was destroyed in the straight line winds, so the ladder truck hasn't had a home. It was manned by volunteers. We're going to get that back into the new station by Green Hill High School when it's completed and get that engine in there. And this mini pumper that we got a grant for is going to go back into Station 3. So coming soon, three-man stations inside the city limits. And thanks to the grant, we're in a good shape. We've got all the equipment, at least in terms of a fire apparatus, covered for us. So the second portion of that state grant was monies to harden the dispatch. A lot of you remember the current police department as Joy Church, and it's a metal building. And I mean, there's nothing wrong with a metal building until it confronts a tornado or such, which we know has happened in Mount Juliet. So that's there, and one of the things that they wanted to do was to get a hardened dispatch center in there, so that we've got the men and women that are dispatching in there have some protection around the storm. They're not just in a metal building. So we got a $300,000 grant. I initially was kind of hoping that this wouldn't get handled in this budget year, and it's not that I don't want them to have a hardened dispatch. I didn't want to just spend the $300,000 on it, which I thought was going to be kind of a Band-Aid to it. We got some stuff in the works now with a 10-year plan, and I think there's agreement to use some general fund money on this to do it right and get it done the correct way and get that hardened dispatch in there and take care of some other issues that we have with evidence storage. I think some of the state laws have changed, and we've got to store stuff longer than we normally have. So we're going to take care of that. The other one was for a generator, and that's just to run all dispatch there at the police station. We had some different voltages on these things, and we were only able to really run a small portion of that. So we've had some power failures and stuff that really need that generator in place to keep the command staff and the dispatch going. So that was that. And the fourth piece was just some HVAC stuff that was really old in the city and needed replacing. That's part of one of the grant things that we could apply for. So we applied for it, and that's money that we're not going to have to spend out of the general fund. So it's a win all the way around. So really excited about that. I'm excited to see what we're doing here locally, the economy, how the city seems to be recovering as best possible. Yet I realize we're still in the middle of a pandemic, but I'm starting to see houses pop back up at Clearview. I saw some walls going up today, and it really gets me excited to see, being out there that morning and seeing the damage, and now seeing the recovery that's going on. And it's really really impressive just to see the folks in Mount Juliet just pulling together and doing what they're doing. The last piece I wanted to cover on here was the ALPRs, automatic license plate readers. And that one was kind of a controversial item that got put in the 2019 budget. Then I think the city manager took it out of the 2019 budget. We went into budget workshops, and I'm really intrigued by this. There's some reports of cities around us that are doing this. They're having some success with it. And I got to say, staff did a wonderful job with this program. And I know some people had some complaints about it, about the cost when it came on there. And they said, why are you buying this many cameras when the other city only has that many cameras? And, did a little digging, and I said, well, maybe we should be asking this way. How are we getting 30-something cameras for the same price that the other city is getting 8 cameras for? So that speaks a lot to the quality of the staff, the research that they put in on this thing. And of course, went live, I believe it was April 1st, and by my count, I'm showing 51 hits on this thing. So it's taken a lot of people to jail. It's recovered a lot of stolen cars. It seems like every other one of the posts on that says, and found with meth, or found with this, that, or the other. And it's getting people off the streets that don't need to be in the streets of Mount Juliet in the first place. And we've recovered a lot of things, that's happened in other cities, other states that have come here. I'm waiting for the first car from another country to get stopped because something's going on, a wanted person. We've taken people to jail off the TBI list, wanted murderers that they've stopped. And you have to put it in perspective too. I know some people like to look at this as it's, an overstep of government using technology, but you got to understand that the criminals are using technology against us. You see recruiting that's going on social media. You see people reaching out to other people, telling them how to get away with crimes, coordinating. I'm going to grab a stolen car. I'm going to go to a neighborhood, and then we're just going to go try every door handle in there till we find something that we can grab, a purse or a laptop, or somebody left some valuables in there. We're going to grab it. And when the police get called or somebody calls out, we're going to abandon the car because it's stolen anyway. And we're coordinating with somebody on social media or whatever form of technology that they're using to pick them up. And it really leaves us at a disadvantage. So I don't want to ever be in a situation where I'm on the commission and we put our police officers where they're behind the 8 ball when it comes to tools or technology that they need to do their jobs. The last thing I'm going to say about that is we passed it as part of the budget in 2019, and immediately started looking at what other cities were doing, what some of the concerns that other people in other places had with the program. And doing a little digging and looking around, there were some major privacy concerns, and some of the stuff that I seen really concerned me greatly about this program. And specifically, I looked at one city in Texas, and they were sharing their data with over 600 and some odd other entities out there. And I was like, is that a full-time job for somebody to keep up with that? And to me, that the kind of data on here, while anybody can get behind us and see our license plate, we don't need that data shared with anybody other than law enforcement. So we immediately sat down with the police department, started working with them on codifying some of these privacy concerns, and looked at the privacy concerns of other cities about the information being shared, people trying to find out who the information was getting shared with. Private marketing companies, making sure it wasn't getting shared with them. So we wrote up an ordinance. The ordinance requires the police department, and they said, no problem with it, James. We can do our jobs, we can do this, and we can reassure people what's going on. But this ordinance requires any sharing of data with local law enforcement to be posted online. You can go to the website and you can see now that they're not sharing with anybody. But if they share it with something, and that means live feeds, live information sharing with another city or another law enforcement agency, you can go on the website at any time and see who they're sharing it with. The ordinance also outlawed using the cameras for any type of traffic enforcement. One of the reasons I originally run for office was because of the red light cameras in there. These are very different cameras. These cameras are looking out to find criminals. The red light cameras, in my opinion, were looking out to make ATS some money, because the majority of that money was going to ATS. It wasn't coming back here to the city, and I don't believe it was making the intersections a bit safer, but it was collecting a lot of money for people. But that's all I'm going to go about ATS tonight. But this thing was to set the privacy up, to make sure that anything that was being shared with other entities was being publicly made available, so that you knew if it was going on. And the other thing was preventing the use of traffic enforcement, which is like looking for expired plates or catching people speeding, which they don't even have the ability to do that. But making sure that was in law, that was done. And the other part was just making sure the data was never retained or shared with any entities outside the state. So we put that in, and as far as I know, that's the strictest privacy requirements around this product anywhere in the state of Tennessee. And I'd say it would probably stack up well with anywhere in the country out there as far as privacy concerns. So with that, Preston, I'm gonna ask you if you seen any comments online or any questions.
Yes, we've got a question from Bill asking, will you be going over the new home development?
I will not. I will not be going over that. Bill, and I don't mean I'm not going to go over it. I'm actually going to schedule a call for Sunday and make sure the two neighborhoods that are impacted the most for it get a direct invitation. I'm going to email everybody that I've got an email address for, and I'm going to stream it here too. So anybody that wants to at Sunday at 3, we're going to dedicate an entire hour to this subject. Maybe we'll get through with it with an hour, but I got to say it's a good question, Bill, and it's really a standalone topic, and I'm not trying to get away from the subject, but it's really a standalone topic. I want to specifically invite Hickory Hills and Willoughby Station because they're the two that's going to be impacted the most by this development on here, and I want to lay it out. I want to go from the beginning to the end on the whole story on this thing. If you're watching, you're welcome to jump on Facebook and watch the live stream of that too, because I'm gonna go through it. I mean, everybody needs to know the whole story behind this thing. So we'll cover that Sunday at 3. I'll just to preface it. I mean, there's a land development looking at the end of Devonshire, and unfortunately, that's going to do unkind things to the traffic patterns for Hickory Hills and Willoughby Station both. So I want to do that Sunday at 3 and just do an hour-long call on it. What else are you seeing, Preston?
Yeah, next question is from Tina. She wants to know when they are going to turn the red light off at Old North Green Hill.
Any day now. I think there was actually an alert that went out today, and I don't remember if they said it was today or tomorrow. Well, tomorrow maybe, or sometime next week, but it's coming very soon. It's going to go, and what Tina's asking about is with the new traffic light that's put in there for Green Hill High School is aligned. What's happened is North Green Hill Road has been aligned with Benton Douglas, and there's a new traffic light there. There's no longer a need for the traffic light at Old North Green Hill Road, which is the section that was originally just Green Hill Road, so there's no need for that light there. It's going to go to a flashing pattern, and it's probably going to stay on that flashing pattern for a week, maybe 2 weeks long. And once they get the and they do that just to get people accustomed to the fact that the patterns are changing, that light's going to be turned off at that point. Honestly, those lights are too close together and to really get an effective traffic flow. And you're going to see times where one will catch the other one and back traffic up into it, and that's not what we want. You can, if you want to see that firsthand, go to Providence and look at that light there in front of Chick-fil-A. It's too close by design to the other lights, and many times I think it does more harm than good. But the one there on Old North Green Hill Road is going to go to a flashing pattern here very soon, and within a couple of weeks after that, week to 2 weeks, it's going to be shut down at that point, and you'll probably see the city reallocate that light to somewhere else where there's a need for a light. And that's a good question.
Yes, we've got Mark and Kristen that's kind of just reiterated your sentiments on flashing light. Mark said that Captain Chandler said it was going to be flashing for a few days and it'll be turned off.
Yeah, I have to get.
That's all the questions we've got right now.
All right, man, we're doing good. I think we covered everything on the notes. Have you got anything, Preston, that's popped up?
Nope, we've answered everything.
Well, I'll jump quickly into another topic on here, and it's not so much the focus of the town hall per se, but one thing I do want to mention is while I've got an audience here is, of course, on June 22nd I announced that I would be running for mayor, and today was the final qualifying day to run for mayor. So I want to put it out there. I want to be a candidate. I'm going to be on the ballot in November. I'd appreciate your support and vote. If you're watching and I can do anything to answer questions, let me know if you got any questions about that. We would love to take them on here tonight and try to answer anything we can. But I'd really appreciate your vote and support in November, and even sooner than that, if you get out and early vote, I'd appreciate if you keep us in mind. If you have questions for us, let us know. If you want to volunteer, we'll be happy to have your help on this thing. One thing that we want to do is just get out in front of as many voters as we can. It's a challenging time for that with COVID-19, but it's not something that's impossible for us because everybody's playing under the same constraints as we are. So we're going to do our best to get out there and talk to as many people as we can, as safely as we can in doing it, because that's the number one concern, is keeping people safe. But at the same time, you kind of getting out there and introducing yourself the best that you can. If you want a yard sign, as you can see by Preston's background on here, that it makes a good backdrop. If you want a yard sign, there's a place in the description where you can sign up and request a yard sign. I know many of you have requested a yard sign, and we're going to get those out to you very quickly here. So if you requested and hadn't seen one yet, they're on their way. If you want one, it's in the description. If you want to volunteer, go to the website, jamesmanus.com. There's places to sign up there. And of course, I want to thank everybody for the encouragement, the support, the prayers. But I need more of the prayers, and if you're willing to volunteer, love to put you to work, and hopefully make a difference for Mount Juliet going forward. This is the only place I've ever served at in local government. It's really the only thing I've ever aspired to do, is just serve the community that I live in. It's the place that I chose to raise my children. It's the place that we chose to move here, put down roots, and call this home. And I love this city. I love what it represents. I love the people that live in it, what they do, and the way you raise your families, the way that you make this city and this community work. It's an awesome experience to live here and be able to worship and play here. The other thing that I definitely want to work on in the next few years is work. But you can live, work, and play here as well. So I think we've got some things we can do to enhance our park system, recruiting of some jobs over here, jobs that are compatible with Mount Juliet, that complement our economy, complement our people, and complement the way of life that we call home here at Mount Juliet. Keeping those aspects in mind, those are some of the things I'm wanting to accomplish in office. Obviously, public safety and traffic, the top two priorities for me, but just keeping that way of life, preserving what makes Mount Juliet great, keeping those things in place that are the same reasons that you've chose to call Mount Juliet home. And if you've lived here all your life, the same reasons that you chose to stay here when you could have gone anywhere in the state of Tennessee, anywhere in the United States, but you've chosen to stay here in Mount Juliet. And that's an awesome responsibility to be able to protect that and try to preserve that way of life as well as we can, while the growth that we have that's taken interest in Middle Tennessee. And it says a lot about the people that live here, that there's so many of you, there's so many coming that want to join us. So again, thank you, and I'd appreciate your vote and support. And Preston, I'm going to ask you if you see any other questions, anything else that we can cover.
Yeah, got a couple questions. Charles wants to know if we're still looking at putting in a pool.
You're talking about a community pool. I thought, well, there's one in the neighborhood. Yes, that is something that we actually talk about in the Parks Board pretty regularly. Comes up, and I know the Parks Director is looking for some land now that could put on. One of the things that we did decide is that Charlie Daniels there's not the room to do it. So we're anxiously looking for land. That's the first step. That's the first thing we've got to have is the land to be able to do something. We need room for more fields. We need room for youth sports to expand, and we've got some on the next agenda out there that's going to put us in the right place for his fields. But once we get the land, I think that's really the next step, is to start looking at the type of amenities that we want as a community, look at putting a budget together and just really seeing what's feasible and what's not feasible with our funding mechanism for doing it.
We got a question from David, kind of bouncing off what you just said. David wants to know if there's any updates on potential property at the former Wind Tree Golf Course and that becoming a city park.
Yes, that one's not as positive of news. That was one that I actually put I guess, a resolution together. It's earlier this year. I'll just leave it at that and still trying to guess a date, but it's earlier this year, looking at that property for a city park. At this point, it doesn't look like the finances are going to work, and it doesn't look like the strings that look to be potentially there with the development around it. I think as part of the park deal, the owner is looking for some density on that property as far as the number of houses that I'm not going to be able to support. And giving up, I think we'd be giving up so much land as part of the deal. It's really not going to be, in my opinion, a good mix for a park with the amount of land that we're giving up for the amount of money that we're having to give, plus concede the density on that so they can develop a portion of that land. I just don't think it's a good mix for us as a city to just agree to that type of density based on the road and the traffic that's already facing on that road. I mean, you see developments that come in the city of Mount Juliet, and not all developments that we have the type of control or say over that we would like, but this one is one that I can't justify that density that the owner is offering or asking for to make that deal work. So for me, it's going to be a no. It's not a no forever. Perhaps we can work something out in the future, but for right now, we're kind of at an impasse on it. I really like the property, and I thought it was the most park-ready property of the ones that we've looked at. But for right now, I don't see a path forward yet on it as far as sealing that deal and getting it done. So we're close on some other land, but it's not as nice as, in my opinion, as that, or as functional as that. But we got some other ones that are coming up on us, some land off Tate Road that we'll be seeing on Monday night's meeting for a vote on it. I think that land on Tate Road is going to serve us well for some fields, some athletic fields. I think also that parking lot there is going to double nicely as a third trailhead for the Town Center Trail. And I see how popular that trail is already, and it's not even officially open. So that third trailhead is going to serve well, I think, in the morning times when it looks like there's a lot of cars out there. I'm already seeing the need for additional parking, so that's going to give some relief, make it easier for Brookstone to be able to park over there and use it, and make it easier, I think, too, for people that just use the trail in the morning when the athletic fields aren't going to be in use anyway, just some additional parking. So that's good. On that subject of the Town Center Trail, some of the monies that is already in the budget is for a sidewalk from the Town Center Trail leading up all the way to Willoughby Station, because I see it already. People are out there, they're walking, they're going down South Green Hill Road, and they're pushing children on strollers, and they're right out in the road. It's just not a good thing. But the money's already budgeted. Relief's coming on that. I don't have a timeline and yet when it to get done, but it's there. We know it's a problem, and that's one of the things we're anxious to take on and get resolved. See anything else, Preston?
Yeah, Julie's got a really good question. She wants to know, if you're elected mayor, where do you see Mount Juliet in 5 and 10 years?
Well, in 5 or 10 years, where do I see it? I see the characteristic or the feel of the community, the sense of community. It's not my goal to change anything as far as the family atmosphere that we have. That's, to me, I'm not going to be a success if that changes. We want to keep that same model here. But one thing I do want to change is our level of emergency services, specifically in terms of fire. Getting those numbers in place as far as the 3 stations, getting those fully staffed, getting our ISO rating down from a 5 to a 4. What that means for you out there, other than just hearing a number, is potential savings on your homeowner insurance, because we're offering a better quality of services. Getting the bridge widened over I-40, and that's a project that may be starting here very soon, getting that complete, using the Providence Central as a springboard for getting the on-ramp completed. That's probably not going to get done in 5 years, but I want to get it done in that 5 to 10 year window, getting that on-ramp there at Central Pike. The numbers that we're looking at now showing about a 60% reduction in traffic that's coming up from the south in Providence. That is a key project to getting that completed. and of course, recruiting the type of jobs, the sectors and what we've got already in the pipeline for Providence Central, those office white collar jobs out there. Mount Juliet not just being a place that we can live, work, and live and worship, but also being a place that we can get the quality jobs that so many of us have to commute and drive to Franklin for to be able to commute. I can take a job here in Mount Juliet doing my line of work, but I can't afford the pay cut is the problem, and I have to commute to get those done. I want to make Mount Juliet that self-sufficient city in terms of far as the full local economy, and that helps us all out. It helps the local community, the local economy. It puts the money back into school systems through sales tax. You think about our restaurants that are already there in Providence, having people that are working in the office buildings there in Providence Central. This is just one example. Feeds those restaurants that we already have there using the existing infrastructure, allows that revenue, tax money to be collected there to feed right back into our school system. So that's one of the things I want to do. And the other thing is just really changing the culture in the way that the city and the counties and the school systems and that thing, the way we collaborate, the way we work, the way we plan together, and just the whole aspect of the relationship between that and taking it to the next level, not letting these pettier issues of the past hold us back. So that's kind of my vision and my goal on that. Just a little nutshell on a video here, but on where I want to see the city go in the next 5 to 10 years.
David wanted to kind of double back to that discussion on Tate Lane and the Parks property and wanted to clarify. Are you talking about putting sports fields on that Tate Lane property?
That is one of the things that is being proposed, is some soccer fields. I think is what's initially being battered around. I don't know if there's a concrete plan for that, but yeah, that's one of the things that was being discussed. There's actually a Parks Board meeting September 1st, where that's probably one of the things that's going to be hammered down and secured, is exactly the exact plan for this, because they're going to need it, to get the vote and the support at the Board of Commissioners to use this, is to know, have an exact plan for the future of that property. So, yeah, one of the main things that is thrown around is athletic fields for the use on that. I unfortunately am not going to be able to be at that meeting. I've got a stormwater training session in Lebanon that night. So, but that's a meeting where the final plan is going to get, I think, really hammered out on exactly what's on there. Some good news in terms of sports fields. If some of you that remember a few years ago was the field being used, it's kind of, I guess it's across from Stone Hollow, Tuscan Gardens, kind of over by the high school. We used to have some soccer fields over there. So a new contract been signed with a new vendor that we expect to be bringing soccer back to those fields here. Probably not this year, but we probably couldn't play this year anyway. But here soon as possible, bringing some soccer back to Mount Juliet. So it's a need, and there's a lot of people that are interested in those type of activities with soccer. So it's one that's being queued up, and the contract, I believe, is on Monday's agenda for the BOC. We got anything else, Preston?
Yeah, it looks like we got one more. Kristen wants to know if there's any discussion about putting a sidewalk from the new Green Hill High School to Green Hill Church. Said that would be really beneficial for her kids.
We have taken a grant from the state that's working the other way. I don't recall if there's anything in the pipeline to go past the high school, but we do have the grant in place, and you see that under construction. It's going to be a little while before it's completed, but to me that's the next logical step, is to apply for a grant to go from the high school and keep extending it on there. It's sometimes it's a little bit more difficult to secure the grant money as the population or the density spreads out on it, but I think it is a definite need to get it through there, and I think it would be nice too if we could get something done on the other end of North Green Hill. I got a call today from a lady on that one to know if North Green Hill Road was going to get shoulders, all the way up to the Lakeview area, and I had to send them to the road department for the county, but I don't see that improving anytime soon. But some sidewalks through there as well would be very beneficial. And it was really nice, to, when picking the kids up out there at the school and to see the kids that were able to use the sidewalks that we have to walk over to, I guess, Nicholsville or Ravings Crossing over into there and just see them being able to walk to school. Because if you live here where I live and you're zoned for Mount Juliet Elementary, being able to walk to school is not something that's been in the cards or will be in the cards until the next phase of the Greenway comes in here on the Town Center Trail. But it's definitely one of the goals, and you'll see a lot of work out of the commission that's been done over the last few years as far as trying to improve walkability. Fortunately for the city, there's a lot of grants that are out there. A lot of these grants that we're getting, some are 90-10, which means the city is funding 10% of the project, and most of them are usually in the range of about 80-20. Now what happens, I voted against, I told them they needed to resend that thing out for bid. It was advertised, I think, as an 80-20, and then when the numbers came back, I want to say it was more like 70-30 or something. I was like, a little bait and switch, but after talking with the engineer, he agreed it was a fair price. I think the state estimate was just low on it. But moving ahead as fast as we can on these sidewalks, and we get them in the pipeline. We've got staff and engineering, and last budget process I asked the city engineer, I said, have you got the staffing and have you got the people you need that we're not having to sit and park on these type of projects or the transportation projects? Because any of these things, the thing I do not want to see is the city being the holdup. Going through the red tape at state and federal level sometimes is enough for all of us, but I just do not want us to be in a position where the city is holding any of these projects up as far as staffing levels or anything that we're doing as far as matching. We've got to be the catalyst, and staff has done a wonderful job of getting these projects out there, getting them advertised, and getting us in a good position. I think when I was elected, I sat down with the city manager, and I think the city only had maybe 1 or 2 projects in the MPO, which is the Metro Planning Organization. It's kind of where Congress dumps the money that gets spent locally. And I think the last count we had, we may have a dozen projects in the top pipeline now. So it's just been a really big uptake on these projects and trying to get them through, get them funded, and it's a big priority for the BOC. Anything else, Preston?
That looks like all the questions have been answered. Kristen wanted to say thank you for that response from the sidewalkers.
Definitely, and I'm writing your name down now, Kristen. I see it here showing on my phone, so I know who to chase down because I'm going to confirm that answer. I honestly don't remember exactly where we're at in that process. I don't want to give you the wrong answer, so I'll look up, make sure I get you the right answer. All right, one last check there, Preston.
Yep, still don't have any questions. Look like we've answered everything.
Perfect. That's the way I like to leave it. Again, to Bill's question, I want to do another call on Sunday. It's geared to Willoughby Station and Hickory Hills, but if you live in the city and find the information useful, feel free to jump on here and jump on the call and see what we're discussing. It's I'll just say this, I'm very disappointed in what I've saw. I'm very disappointed in the level of communication, and I have no doubts that what we're going to see with this project is going to leave us all very disappointed, probably very angry. I've known about it for about a week and a half and 2 weeks now. So if you want to jump back on here Sunday, we'll go through it. If I was ranking things I see sometimes a top 10 list in college sports. I know ESPN used to put the bottom 5 or bottom 10 out. This project would be in the bottom 10, and that's saying a lot on some of the stuff I've seen come through the city in the years. I know people like to say the city approves everything, but believe me, you don't see the stuff that doesn't even make it to the table because it gets rejected outright. I don't know how many calls I get every month or so about putting an apartment, just run-of-the-mill garden-style apartment complex somewhere. Not that apartments in themselves are wrong or bad. It's just we don't need to put them on every parcel of land we've got, and the ones we get, they need to be bringing something back to the community, and they need to be something that brings value, not just because they'll fit on something. So calls like that are constantly coming in, projects like that. that are just not a good fit for our community are constantly being proposed. But this one, they found a way, folks. So tune in Sunday at 3. We'll go through that one. I'm not trying to oversell it, believe me, as being dramatic here, but that's where we found ourselves at. So I just want to make sure that what I know, I share, and that what I have, that I get out there to you. And I think with that, if we don't have anything else that's popped up, Preston, let's end this. Just want to take this opportunity, and of course, thank everybody for tuning in and joining us. We've been doing these town halls, gosh, well over a year now. I was just doing some kind of videos and putting them out here. I'll just say this: if you like this level of transparency as we go forward, this is I don't plan to change anything going as if I'm elected as your next mayor. The same thing, getting out there, and I don't mean just getting out here because it's an election year, but just getting out there and sharing things and having discussions and going through and trying to ask these answer questions that you may have, and just share what I know and hopefully paint a better picture for what's going on with the city and the community. But again, thank you for joining us. If you haven't, there's a link in the description to sign up for the newsletter. I'll put that out. I'm going to get these finances that I talked about captured in those things, because numbers a lot of times look a little better on paper than they are somebody talking about them on a video. So sign up for the newspaper. This video is going to be posted on the website. I like the Facebook page. Give it a like, and so you can keep up with what's going on it. Of course, invite your friends, share this town hall, and last but not least, if you would, I would appreciate your vote and support. November 3rd, James Maness running for mayor, and I'd really appreciate your vote. If you'd like to volunteer, go to the website. If you'd like a yard sign, it can be found in the description. Again, thank you for sharing your time with us. From Preston and myself both, we appreciate it. Appreciate what you do, the community, the way you live, the way you raise your family. Wouldn't want to call any other place home but Mount Juliet. Again, thank you for joining, and this is going to be soon posted online. If you have any questions, just feel free to reach out, leave them in the comments, and we'll try to circle back and do our best to get them answered. Thanks, everyone.